Dr. Wallen.
Hello, Benson. How are you?
I'm me, and
something that seems to never change, right?
For those listening, I when Dr. Walling and I jumped onto this video chat, she kept asking me, "How are you?" and I would say, "I'm me."
So in one of my classes this semester, I'm going to be teaching Waiting for Godot, which is a famous absurdist play about two characters who sit in an empty landscape having the same conversations over and over again, which I think really speaks to pandemic life in a lot of ways. So we're just having our own little Waiting for Godot moment here.
All right. I think the last time we physically saw each other was last spring when I was accosting you to have you come back on the podcast.
And it's spring, and here I am. So
just almost a year too late.
I think that really sums up so much about 2020, right?
And I remember one time when in sophomore seminar where I think we came back from a long weekend or some holiday or something, and then we the class and we were playing a game of haven't seen each other in a long time, probably don't recognize each other, and you are. I think I called you Mindy.
I don't remember that, but okay.
And you are Mindy?
Why Mindy?
Professor Mindy is.
I never really thought of myself as a Mindy, but there's so many things about ourselves that we don't get to choose, right?
But how have you been since?
It's been a long pandemic.
I mean, I imagine there are others that have been longer, but
none that I've personally experienced. So I don't have a lot of basis for comparison. I mean, I can talk about the Black Death. That lasted a lot longer, but Fortunately, even though I am old, I'm not that old. So
yeah. And one thing to side note, because your microphone is wired, you might be rubbing up against your clothing or something like that.
Are you getting feedback noise?
Yeah.
I can take off my sweater. I assume you'll edit that out. The conversation about whether my sweater is causing interference. Could it be my hair?
Time to wear a noisy sweater.
I can go get a rubber band if my hair is causing interference.
You just need to get rid of your hair, Dr.
Yeah, I'll grab a pair of scissors and do a live, real-time pandemic haircut.
Yeah. I recently got these lights. You are the first person to see my lighting setup here.
Well, I can't actually see your lighting setup. I can see the effect of your lighting
being
setup.
Being that they're, I got this light to put on top of my camera here. And then
is it a ring light?
No, it's it's shaped like a square.
Okay. It's a square ring light.
A little cold shoe to put on top of my camera.
All right.
And then here's another one that has a suction cup put on a wall. So I guess technically speaking, I kind of have a 3-point lighting setup. This one here, this one on top of my camera, and then I guess my television's display on a white screen. Because I'm not a big fan of turning on the light fixture that's in my room unless I'm doing something like assembling furniture or something. So especially because that. I guess that technically makes me backlit. That's not a good look. So now congratulations, you were the first person to see my very professional lighting setup.
Well, you look very well lit. Lighting is hard. It's one of the things that in the pandemic I've discovered, A, is hard, and B, that I just don't care enough about to actually invest time and energy in improving it. So, yeah.
You should have seen me before. I would have the television on and these not very powerful LED strip lights on this shelf here. And then I would set up a lamp. There's a lamp over there that looks like the typical green you would see in Library of Congress or something like that. Those typical green lamps. I would set up on my bed here, turn on, and it's the wrong temperature. Totally the wrong temperature. So it looks weird. And the setup you would expect from someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But now I would say I still don't know what I'm doing. But
Well, at least you have like a spot that is your recording spot, and you can work on the lighting there. Depending on what other members of my family are doing, I find myself wandering around different rooms of the house to do video calls and meetings and teaching and recordings and things like that. And so some of the rooms are okay, and some of them are really kind of terrible.
And now that I think about it, this is an audio-only podcast. It kind of doesn't matter.
But I'm glad we've covered lighting as
I guess it's for your benefit. It's for your benefit, so you can see. I don't know who would enjoy seeing me, but
everyone enjoys seeing you. But at least you are covered for future video calls.
Yeah. I think so. Have you since you were last on, which I think was actually about like exactly this time the year before, I think.
1 year ago or 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, there's the date we recorded and there's the date it was published.
Oh, okay.
The date it was published is just about a year ago today.
Okay.
I think.
And so we recorded in the fall before that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any like uptick in Google searches for a person named Amanda Walling who might have been on a podcast?
I have not, but I'm not sure how I would monitor that. I guess my Google Analytics are not highly enough.
I think you can like
verified.
I think you can do a thing where like Google alerts you when there's new searches or new search results or something like that.
I feel like I probably don't want to know that though. It's the problem.
Well, I mean, like if you want, I was thinking maybe you'd be the kind of person wanting to keep track of their internet popularity.
Because I can see how you would have that idea about me because I clearly pay so much attention to my social media branding and that kind of thing. Yeah. No, I mean, like everyone else, I have Googled myself a few times, but there's enough people out there either with the same name as me or named Amanda who are mentioned in some context involving construction. So the word walling appears. That Googling me is really not very interesting. So I kind of gave
Internet
up on
search results from like 2003 about constructing the set for the Amanda Show.
Exactly. Stuff like that. I think there's somebody with my name who's a photographer who is all over social media, and I wish her luck with that, but that's not me. So if anyone is listening and Googling me, that's not me. The photographer lady is not me.
Well, you'll be, then I guess I have the honor of telling you that, at least from what I remember, your episode is rather popular.
Oh, good. I don't know what I did, but I'm glad I did it.
You talked to me. That was what.
Clearly, I think if anything is raising my branding profile here, it's you, Benson.
Professor Wong, you're doing very well. We just need to we need to. This is your performance review.
Do I need to insert more hashtags into my everyday conversation in order to raise my profile?
More children named after albums and more hashtags.
Is naming children after albums a thing?
Did we decide it was a thing?
You were the one who brought it up. I wasn't aware that I A, needed to have more children, and B, needed to name them after albums, and if so, whose albums? Or do I just go around finding other people's children and naming them after albums?
I wasn't necessarily saying you should have more children to name them.
But someone should. So who is having children and naming them after albums?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
But
it's a life goal.
That's not necessarily for me, but
so you come up with album names. Are these also names that you're considering for your future children?
No.
So you're not taking your own advice,
or at least for like coming up with stand-up bits where I have imaginary children. I love
and imaginary albums.
Imaginary album titles for imaginary children.
And that's an album title right there.
Yes, it is. Wait, hold on. This is gonna be great radio, guys. I'm gonna post it to Reddit right now.
Generating content in real time. This is why you need a production assistant who can sit there in the background and post things on Reddit.
The greatest production meeting I've ever had, Dr. Walling.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
We try to give you a well-rounded education at the University of Hartford.
Imaginary album titles for imaginary children there. You heard it here first, guys. Or we heard it here first. This won't be released for a while.
We heard it, and then someday other people will hear it.
Yeah.
After it's gone viral, after being posted on Reddit. Someday,
right? I have to admit, your episode of the podcast is one of my favorites that I've done.
Well, thank you. It's definitely my favorite podcast interview I've ever done.
Easily top 50.
Top 50. And out of how many episodes?
You are going to be the 50th. And your return appearance will be...
So I'll be like 125th of your favorite episodes ever. Assuming this one also makes the top 50.
Yeah.
At least until you record the next one, at which point people will start getting knocked out.
Yeah. What I mean to say is it was easily one of my top 5.
Well, thank you.
I don't know. It's like it was just so much fun because I don't know. You don't often find like a professor who has like good comedic energy, and
wow, that's not really how I've thought of myself, but it's good to know. So when I find myself searching for a new career, I can put that on my resume. Good comedic energy.
I'm not necessarily imploring you to become a comedian.
I think it's probably better for the world that I don't.
Or what's that word they sometimes use for women who are comedian?
Oh, comedian, yes.
Which,
like a comedian, but a girl.
I never understood why that was a word, why that's a thing, comedian. Like, I always thought of the word comedian as gender neutral. Mm-hmm. So you would just refer to anyone who does comedy as a comedian. And then...
That's what I would do. But yeah. So let me ask you this then. What do you see as the difference between comedian and actress? Is there a difference? And if so, why?
I don't think... I've seen like the distinguishing between actor and actress and words similar to that to have like the kind of is.
Mm-hmm. Waitress, waiter.
Yeah. And when I came across comedian, I'm like, that doesn't look right, nor
maybe
necessary.
Because it's a French ending and not an English ending. Because like the S is probably an English ending, whereas I think the adding the NE is a French thing.
You see, guys, I don't know French.
That's what we're here for. To tell you obscure things about French grammar that you never particularly wanted or needed to know.
And to think you were an English professor.
Don't get me started on the relationship between English and French, because I could go on for like 45 minutes on the history of the English language. I've taught an entire course on the history of the English language, and let me say we spent a not inconsequential amount of time on French in that course.
That's good to know. I think
as we move on to another topic.
I think I would have been required to take history of the English language if I didn't already take contemporary English grammar with Julie, Professor Sahaki.
Yeah, it's actually kind of been, I've taught it, but not in recent years because it was mostly there for the secondary English ed students to fill a requirement. And it was kind of decided by the powers that be that contemporary English grammar was a more useful way of filling the requirement for future English teachers. So it's kind of been replaced by contemporary English grammar in the curriculum. Although I've done it as an independent study a few times.
Okay, because I guess it makes sense, but it's still, I don't know, like I would, if given a chance, I would like to, given a survey course about the history of the English language.
I think it's a really interesting topic, but then again, I'm the professor, so I may be biased. Also, I can't sign up for my own course, so me voting with my feet doesn't really do a whole lot of good.
Wait, hold on. I just want to see that happen. See someone like enroll, like they're already a professor, enroll as a student, and then try to sign up for their own course.
One problem, I think, is that I'm not sure I wouldn't be paying more tuition to take the course than I'm being paid to teach it. So that might come out as a financial loss.
If you end up being the only student in your own course, and given like it's not getting, if it's not canceled, does that mean you're paying yourself to teach yourself? You're paying the tuition for you to be
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure that the reason they don't let just one person take a class is because that represents a net financial loss for the university. It does not outweigh the cost of teaching it.
It reminds me of there's this thing called four-walling in the film industry, where you like release a movie and you rent out the theater so that you like net all the profits. You know what I mean? So,
instead of letting the theater owners be middlemen.
Yeah. And so this sounds like a inferior version of four-walling applied to taking a college course or trying to pay yourself to teach a college course.
I mean, I think a lot of professors would say that one of the best ways to really learn a material that you may not know super well is to teach it. So in some sense, I am taking all of my own classes, and there's definitely a lot of things that I've learned or read or studied for a class that I wouldn't have learned or read or studied otherwise. So
I suppose, like, given that you are in the room while the teaching is happening.
Yeah. And more importantly, I'm in the room when all the preparation is happening, which takes up a lot more time than the actual teaching. At least if I'm doing my job right, I'm in the room when the preparation is happening. I guess I could be just kind of like checked out and, have a pile of books on my desk that I'm reading without actually paying attention to what I'm doing. Sorry, my AirPods were trying to connect again. What's going on? I'm going to hide my AirPods under the sofa here so they don't keep doing that.
Or like throw them into another room. So like I think the reach for Bluetooth is about 30-ish feet or something like that.
I cannot, from where I am sitting, throw them more than 30 feet. I can get maybe 15 until I hit the opposite wall.
Have someone stand by the door, open it, and then you're like, go or not go long, but like here.
You can send your production assistant over to take away my AirPods.
My production assistant is me. So what we're gonna do is, I'll have this keep running. I'll drive to Amherst, Massachusetts,
which from where you live is probably about an hour and a half, I'm guessing.
maybe, and then like convince you to allow me into your home so that you could toss me the AirPods.
There we go.
And then I guess like I hand it to your husband or something. And then I get out and then drive all the way back. And then this will be the longest podcast ever, with most of it being silence.
And you can insert commercials or I can sit here and like read commercials out loud while you're driving 3 hours back and forth so that you can monetize the podcast. How's your mattress? Anybody in need of a new mattress? Let me tell you about a mattress. That kind of thing.
I actually got a new mattress not too long ago.
That's exciting.
Or at least, I guess in mattress years, not too long. How long would you say not too long ago turns into a bit long ago when you get a new mattress?
I think also that has to do with how all of our perception of time has been warped by the pandemic. So things that seem like not that long ago are like actually 2 years ago to me now, because I've blocked out everything in the interim.
Because I think I got this new mattress maybe a year ago.
That's pretty recent.
Within a couple years ago. So I guess you could say it's rather recent, right?
I would count that as a new mattress. It is definitely much newer than mine.
For the longest time, I was sleeping on a, like, I'm not sure what it's just like regular run-of-the-mill box spring kind of mattress. And then at some point, one of the springs broke. And I think I turned it over so that particular spring was not like jutting into me.
Which seems like a desirable way of improving your sleeping conditions. Yeah.
I kept sleeping on it because I'm like, I don't have any money for a new mattress or a good one perhaps. And so I just like kept sleeping on it, and it was still not a great improvement over having a spring jut into me. Especially, I think since the spring broke, that means it was like neither side was, you could say, perfect. And so, but the other side I turned it to was less bad, as opposed to the one that had a very obvious spring like poking out.
So much of life is turning over the mattress for the less bad option.
Yeah. It's like it's like it's like analogous to the cool side of the pillow. Or
isn't the cool side of the pillow always the one that you don't happen to be sleeping on at this particular moment?
And I've heard people say
body heat as a phenomenon. Yeah.
I've heard people use like I hope the other side of your pillow is warm as an insult or something like that.
Oh, I see.
I'm hoping people. We can start it now. The I hope the other side of your mattress is painful.
I hope the other side of your mattress contains sharp, pokey things. But, okay. Now I'm literally going to throw my AirPods in the other room because they are turning on again. I don't know why they're doing this. I was not touching them; they were under the sofa.
Okay,
but I'll see if I.
So far, I don't think I've heard any like switching between microphones, so I think we're fine. But,
okay. Well, I don't think they're 15 feet away, but they're probably at least 10 feet away now. So.
Okay. And now I've got. I think this mattress is from Casper. Which Casper mattresses? If you'd like to sponsor this episode of the podcast,
the mattress that does not cause me physical pain by poking a sharp spring into me is a Casper brand mattress.
Casper mattresses. They don't have springs,
don't they? See, I've heard the name. I don't actually know anything about them. Are they memory foam?
I can't remember what this one is. Although, because I know it doesn't have springs, but I'm also pretty sure it's not. Memory foam.
Okay, it's something other.
It's something other.
I think if you want Casper to sponsor you, you're going to have to become more familiar with the selling points of their product.
Well, Casper mattresses. If you'd like to inform me, educate me on your products, please reach out. Whoever the CEO of Casper mattresses is.
Who monitors all of the podcasts in existence for
all the podcasts in existence being recorded. Not
maybe they'll get in touch with you by the time we finish recording this episode, depending on how good their actual monitoring is. Maybe that was what my AirPods were doing. Maybe it was the Casper podcast monitoring algorithm hearing us talking about Casper and trying to insert itself into the conversation.
Casper mattresses is part of the deep state. Yeah.
It's the part of the deep state that ensures the best night's sleep.
That's not a bad strategy, I guess. Trying to minority report mattresses to people or whatever. Or whatever, using a title of a movie as a verb.
Could see that going south really, really quickly.
I guess if anyone could do that, it's probably Google.
Oh, Google can do anything.
That or Amazon. If you have like a Amazon Echo or something like that, always listening to you, or trying to pick up your thoughts as they're forming.
Why just pick them up? Why not incept them? Are you feeling a sudden craving for a new mattress right now?
I should get, like, people think I should get a new mattress, and then the next time they open up like Amazon is like, hey, look at this mattress. Check out this mattress.
Sometimes I wonder the relationship between things that you think about and the rapidity with which they turn up on your Amazon suggested purchases. Sometimes. I don't know what Jeff Bezos is doing out there, but it's clearly a little sinister.
He's taking over the world. That's what he's doing.
Clearly.
So how I usually ask this at the end of the podcast, but how do you feel about being a returning guest?
Being a returning guest. Well, I think it is probably just as well that we wound up waiting that extra year between appearance number 1 and appearance number 2, because this way I have forgotten enough of what we talked about last time that I don't have it hanging over my head in the sense of like, well, can't talk about that. Although maybe I am just talking about the same things. Maybe we had a whole conversation about mattresses last time that I've blocked out. I remember we talked about pickles because I think pickles were a running theme for a while, right? Yes.
We had talked about pickles. I'm pretty sure we didn't say a word about mattresses.
Okay. So now we've made up for that omission in our previous conversation, the topic that clearly must be covered.
Well, now that I've asked you about it, you're bringing up some things we talked about, and now I think we'll have to compensate. I I mean, although I think
I did pickle some onions the other day, so.
You what?
I pickled some onions.
Oh, I thought you said like you ate pickles and onions. I'm like, oh, did you not put them on anything?
I'm from the South, and Vidalia onions are a big thing there, and there are people who just eat a Vidalia onion like an apple, take a big chomp out of it.
Define the South.
I grew up in Tennessee and South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
I think by most measures, the South.
I was really hoping you would actually define
define the South. Well, south of the Mason-Dixon line. Not that I remember exactly every town that the Mason-Dixon line runs through.
It's somewhere in the first half of Mason-Dixon by Thomas Pynchon. And
I think they don't get to the actual Mason-Dixon line until much later in the novel. But yeah, most of what I know about the Mason-Dixon line I learned from Thomas Pynchon.
I haven't read it. I think, I have a few Thomas Pynchon novels, but like not Mason-Dixon. I think I have.
I would definitely recommend starting with Mason-Dixon over something like Gravity's Rainbow. I think you're gonna.
Okay, because I don't have Gravity's Rainbow either.
Okay, good.
They're just like one.
Not good. I mean, it's a good novel. Not that you should know Gravity's Rainbow.
Gravity's Rainbow sucks.
You're not even allowed to like look at it. You're not allowed to have it on your shelf. You're not allowed to let it in your house.
No, I like it's just like the ones I come across when I go to like book sales or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think I have Crying of Lot 49.
That's a good starting point.
Is that the right number? 49?
49, yeah.
I think, okay. I think I have Vineland and, hold on. This is great radio, guys.
Benson is opening the cabinet. He's looking at his book. He's taking inventory.
So I have Crying of Lot 49, Vineland, and Against the Day. But I've been meaning to get more Pynchon.
I have Vineland, but I haven't read it. I keep meaning to.
Yeah, I haven't read any of these.
You keep them very close at hand. That's the thing that impresses me. If you and I are having a conversation about a book, and I'm like, I think I own that book. Let me go check. It would take me about 45 minutes of looking through my house and possibly a couple of hours of driving to campus, looking through all my bookshelves on campus, and then coming home. Whereas you're like, I think I may own that book. You turn around, you've got a cabinet right behind you. You open the door, there's the book. So like you had an answer in like 13 seconds. It was very impressive.
Well, I have all of my books are kept inside this room, which is my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I have they're not exactly organized in a way that would probably make sense to an outsider, but I'm also like I'm a bit obsessive about cataloging things, including my personal library. In fact, I keep a spreadsheet of all the books I own.
That's very responsible of you. I wish I were that responsible about my books.
Make spreadsheets, guys. Sponsored by Microsoft Excel.
What I always do when I mean to make a spreadsheet and don't get around to it, which is most of the time, every time it's like the end of the semester, especially in the spring when I'm not going to be in my office for a while, I will take my iPhone and take pictures of all of the bookshelves in my office in their current state so that when I get home and I can't find a book and I'm like, maybe it's on campus, I can go back and look and see if it's on one of my shelves on campus. That's as I get to a spreadsheet.
There was a time when I spent like a summer raiding all the thrift stores and book sales within like a 30-mile radius of my home. Just kept buying all the books. And so I was running out of room. Here is a bookcase that you cannot
I can't see it, but I believe you.
You can't see. But
I believe you. All I see is the keyboard.
Wait. I'm gonna do a thing where I like tune it. I'm gonna use my phone to tune into the Zoom call so that I can show you.
It's like the 3D Benson experience.
Yeah. This is great radio, guys.
Panorama.
And hopefully.
All right, now there's two of you, I see.
There's two of me on this call now. So that's my television, and it's sitting on top.
Okay, yeah, that is a television, yeah.
That is a television. So there's this bookcase. And now I'm going to move away from my microphone.
That's definitely a bookcase too.
That is also a bookcase over there. So I have two bookcases in my room that are filled with books, and the one on the east wall is there are other books on top of it because there was a time when I figured, hey, the top of it counts as a shelf.
Oh, definitely.
But then I kept stacking it in a manner similar to that, and because I kept getting more books, and then it was too much. The top started to bow. I'm like, I need to figure out how to not wreck this bookcase, and also not buy any more books. So I decided this armoire here, which was used to contain where my clothing resides. I decided, well, I only wear 3 things, or at least 3 types of things. I'm going to empty this out and put a bunch of books in there, which is what you saw when I opened the cabinet.
That is some real English major energy there, right? Like, I don't need clothes. I just have books. That is, yeah, okay. There's like 1 shelf with clothes on it and 3 shelves of books. I think that's what every English major should aspire to. Yep. And you also have the advantage of having 1 room that is your room, and I assume the rest of the house is your family's and not yours. So
sort of, yeah.
There's kind of an incentive to keep your belongings contained, whereas the problem with living in an actual house as a supposedly responsible adult is the books spread into every room.
Yeah,
I think there's only 1 bookshelf in the room I'm in now, but there's also at least 1 very large pile of books, and then the next
literature diaspora.
Exactly. It is not literature of the diaspora. It is the literature diaspora.
This has been Benson's Book Corner. I think, actually, over the past fewish months, I've been like trying to migrate all the things that are mine back into my room. Mm-hmm. I think the only because like I used to keep like video game consoles and those respective video games like downstairs in the basement where the large television is. But now I'm like I migrated those into my room. I think I kept some other things. I think the only things my things would be in my room or in the basement. And now the only things that are in the basement are my very large collection of movies, which I just do not have the room for. And also like supplies I have for like working on instruments, like tools and such for working on like when I restring guitars or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Do those take up a lot of space?
Those tools?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would need like a bench or something or a table to put like a guitar on.
That makes sense.
And there is a sizable table in the basement where I keep it.
Yeah, this is the house I live in now is the first house I've lived in for more than 5 years, probably since I was a little kid. Which on the one hand is great because it means I don't have to move every 5 years because moving is the worst thing in the world. But on the other hand, the problem is you don't have that need every few years to cull stuff. So there's just a lot of stuff, especially because this is the house in which my kid has been growing up, and kids also produce a lot of stuff. So one of these days we will have to do some great purging, probably once he goes off to college. And then
wait, did you say your child produces a lot of stuff or culls a lot of stuff?
Produces a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Because there's all the clothes that you buy for your kids that they outgrow that wind up in closets, and all the books they don't really read anymore, and all the sculptures they made.
Makes their own clothing? Is that what you're saying?
No. But like having a child means a lot of stuff comes into your house. If my child made all of his own clothing, he would be a lot more economical to keep. Yeah, college is one thing, but we're saving that, $200 a year at Old Navy. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never lived on a campus of an institution of higher education before. Never have. Probably never will. And I think I can't imagine what would happen if I were to try to move into like a dorm. I'd be like, I guess I'll have to choose one guitar.
It would be terrible. Imagine. Although I scoff, but I'm sitting in a room with 2 pianos, so I do understand.
2 upright pianos?
1 upright and 1 grand.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't play either one of them, but they are in the room, and
Mom, can I bring
take
up
more space than your guitars.
Which one?
Yeah, so I definitely, as I was saying, stuff accumulates when you have a kid.
Yeah, I like I wouldn't have like I think that this is something that like haunts me in the back of my mind whenever I think about, oh no, that like whenever I end up moving out of my parents' home or something to, I don't know, perhaps go somewhere for like grad school or something, or to actually just move out. But I cannot fathom how I'm gonna move all of my stuff, because I don't know, like as a musician and someone who like is into recording, there's just so much crap I've accumulated. Like instruments themselves, they're not insubstantial or unsubstantial, whichever one is correct. But it's also like all of my recording equipment and the other instruments, and like I have even this shelf of songbooks, and so it's like, and then of course there's the thing on the wall, the thing I've drilled into the wall to hold my guitars. So it's like, yeah.
And that's what, 6 guitars?
That's
5.
Okay, so there's from your perspective, from left to right, that's a ukulele.
Oh, okay.
A classical guitar, regular steel string acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, another electric guitar, and then a bass guitar.
Yeah, I can see how if you had to pick just one to take with you, that would be very traumatic.
Only the ukulele.
Depending on the size of the dorm room, that might be the way you want to go.
Oh, it's the guy with the ukulele. Oh, man.
I'm sorry, are you making... It's like, are you making guy with a ukulele jokes while you have a ukulele hanging on your wall? Kind of a self-indictment.
Well, that's... In my mind, I was the guy with the ukulele in the dorm.
And okay, and so you're already projecting scorn onto those around you before you move into the dorm.
No, it's always scorn of myself. It's just... Like, if I imagine if I were to ever... if I were a person who like actually moved into a dorm as part of their higher education, I would be the douche with plucked string instruments, and like who like annoys their roommates and like floor mates playing like guitar. Yeah.
Somebody has to fill that role, though.
But yeah.
So on balance, are you happy that you don't live in dorms?
I know I kind of
think it would be an interesting experience to have one day.
I know I would never be able to afford it, ever in my lifetime ever. And I mean, I'm glad on that front. I suppose, I mean, there is a part of me that wishes I could have done it just to have gained the experience. But then there's the other part of me that's like, oh, that's too much. That is too much hassle. Like having to actually, I would have to actually sit down, spend a day thinking about what to bring. It's like, do I want to bring, like, again, it's like, which guitar? I guess I could only bring, it only makes sense to bring one or something like that.
Or the ukulele.
Maybe both. I don't have a case for the ukulele. But also like, again, like because I would want to bring as many instruments as would be sensible, I guess. So like,
that's a highly subjective criterion, though. As many as would be sensible. It's not even as many as would be practical, or like as many as you need, or even as many as you want. It's as many as
would be sensible for someone who loves playing music as much as I do. I guess. Well, I mean, like if I were living like in the dorms at the University of Hartford, I suppose I don't need to bring a keyboard per se, because like there's practice rooms that all have pianos in them at the Hart School.
But what if you feel like you need to practice at 3 a.m. and...
those practice rooms are like 24.
Oh, 24 hours. All right. Yeah. Well, that's very.
Like anyone can come in anytime ever.
Yeah.
To practice until 3 a.m. or from 3 a.m. So, although I would still be like probably psych myself into, yeah, but I need one in my room. I need a keyboard in my room. Okay.
And 5 guitars.
Yeah.
Because you might need to play the guitar and the keyboard at the same time.
I can totally picture myself saying like, well, I need an acoustic, but I also need an electric, just one electric, right?
Yeah.
but I also need the nylon string. And then I end up just bringing all my guitars with me.
I feel reasonably confident saying that's probably what would happen.
But what if someone needs me to play bass?
Yeah. If they're not interchangeable, right?
I mean, I suppose you could bring a guitar, get like a pedal that pitches it down an octave so that you can quote unquote play bass. In which case, I'd be like, well, if I have that one guitar pedal with me, why not the other ones? Bring the whole pedal board.
And eventually the pedals take up as much space as all the guitars would have.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any pedals.
So you've gotten to the point where you feel like you can afford to move into the dorms, and then suddenly you spend all of that money on pedals in order to equip yourself to move into the dorms.
Then if I bring like electric guitars, I would need to bring at least an amplifier.
That's true.
So
you may not need a dorm room so much as you need a studio.
Yes.
And you can throw a sleeping bag or a mattress on the floor of the studio.
I mean, there are recording studios at the school.
You can take your Casper mattress and toss it on the floor of your recording studio.
I get like one of them really padded gig bags for like a bass guitar, and I just sleep on that.
Or you take some of that like acoustic foam that's on the wall of the studio anyway. You just pull it down, toss it on the floor. It's like an eggshell, one of those egg crate mattresses.
And then when I wake up, just put it back up on the wall.
There you go. It's like a Murphy bed.
Find all the foam that's on the wall, tear it off, roughly form the shape of a bed, sleep on it, wake up, then put them all back up on the wall.
I'm guessing you would not be the first person ever to do that. I mean, come on. That stuff just looks so like cushy and nice. It's practically memory foam.
I can't hear myself snoring.
Exactly. Your roommates would never complain.
I mean, I guess you can't because you'd be asleep, but
yeah. Or I guess your neighbors wouldn't complain because any snoring noise would be
I can't hear myself breathing. No, but like I've always had a thought about being like some person who like lives in a van down by the river, like one of those minimalist people who are like, yeah, I'm just gonna sawed off and
hashtag van life.
Yeah. Down by the river. Like where you're like I don't want to be like you're trying to say goodbye to society and sawed off and just live in a van. And like as someone who likes doing stuff that requires lots of stuff, I don't think I would be able to do it unless like I literally only try to psych myself into like just bring a guitar with you and sit by the river.
Also, if the point of living that way is to detach yourself from having too much stuff, and it sounds like you actually are very attached to stuff and don't want to be detached from it, then that may not be the lifestyle for you.
Oh, because I think I feel like a lot of people have at least had the thought like that would be nice if I were not attached to material things, but like given that like I try to be a musician and like I like playing instruments, which the very fact of liking to play multiple instruments means you should have multiple instruments with you. It's like it adds up. The space they take up adds up. And then like I like recording music, recording podcasts. I guess I don't necessarily need a lot of the stuff I do have, but it's like it's nice. It is nice to have them when you're, I don't know, like need more channels to record with, or just like I recently got like a shotgun microphone. I've never had a shotgun microphone before. And as someone who's majoring in film, that means majoring in film basically means you're going to be a videographer. And so it's like I got that. I'm like, because I figured I need one, right? But then it's like, well, you don't necessarily need a shotgun microphone. Maybe not for like indoors. You could just use like a different kind of boom microphone. That's just not like shotgun microphones are boom microphones, but not all boom microphones are shotgun microphones. I was like, yeah, but you could have used something else. Could have gotten something else. I'm like, that'll be for later. And I'll now have more microphones because It's a problem, Dr. Warren.
But it sounds like your microphones, what is the term? Spark joy?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's because now I'm getting into the mindset of like a recording engineer, and like the idea is like you accumulate more microphones in what you call your mic locker, so that you can like for a particular recording scenario, you'll be like, oh, I know, I have a particular microphone that's great for this, and so it's like it's the accumulating stuff so you can be prepared for quote unquote prepared for anything, not necessarily because I guess I like getting new microphones or something or whatever, but it's not like I'm getting new microphones because just get new microphones, hell yeah. It's more because I'm trying to round out a collection of microphones for different situations.
So the minimalist lifestyle is only compatible with the videography lifestyle if you have some kind of independent equipment supplier who will let you use whatever equipment you need at any moment.
Just work at a company that supplies all the equipment for your job.
Which then undermines the whole idea of being independent and free and all of that. Like I can be independent and free because I have a powerful employer.
That's it. And then if you want to be a freelance videographer, that means you have to have all your own equipment.
Exactly.
So you can't. Guys,
so you
I'm
can
doomed.
Be free or you can be minimalist, but you can't be both. I also feel like for a musician, like there are very specific kinds of musicianship that are compatible with an extremely minimalist lifestyle. Like if you play the flute and you have one flute, you could probably manage that. Ukulele, you can manage. Keyboard, you can do a keyboard, but like a real piano, cello, tuba, these are not minimalist instruments.
Yeah, I don't play particularly small instruments, so maybe I should just sell everything and commit all my time to harmonica. Or
there you go. Did Thoreau take any musical instruments when he went to the woods in Walden?
I don't think
Not
he
that
did.
I recall, but
I don't.
He probably didn't take enough microphones. I bet he was sitting there being like, I should have brought the shotgun mic.
I'm thinking of what if Thoreau like just one day is like, I need to. I was never a musician before, but I suddenly, and then he like chops down a tree, brings it in, carves it down so that it's like a cajon, the like percussive box that you can set. It's like, I just need one. I just
doing
need
a one-person drum circle in the woods. I can see that. Yeah. But I gotta say, I feel like if Thoreau was Thoreau now, he would definitely take his acoustic guitar with him into the woods because he's exactly the kind of guy who would be sitting there by his campfire, strumming chords on his acoustic guitar.
This song is called Water.
And then when his mom came to pick up his laundry, he'd be like, "Hey, Mom, let me play this song I wrote."
Oh my God, that's so me. It reminds me of there's this artist named Bon Iver, if you've heard of them.
I think I've heard the name, but that is literally all I know.
He's just some dude, and like his big break was like this record he made. He was when he like just effed off into a cabin in the woods in like Wisconsin, and so it's where I guess it's like something a cabin his family owned just out in the woods, and like every couple of weeks his father would come give him eggs, cheese, and milk to sustain him while he was there.
Gotta have protein in the diet.
Oh no, maybe that's what I need to make my first record.
Eggs, cheese, and milk.
And that could be the title. That's the title of this next record. Eggs, cheese, and milk in the woods. That's my favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer cover band, Eggs, Cheese, and Milk.
I hope the cabin had electricity so he could have refrigeration for his eggs, cheese, and milk.
I think it did.
Binging on eggs and cheese and milk before they spoiled and then having to fast for 2 weeks until the next delivery.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need to do so I can make a record so these titles can go somewhere.
There you go. You take your 5 guitars to a cabin in the woods. And the ukulele.
That's my favorite August Wilson play, 5 guitars in cabin in the woods. Nah. for those listening, August Wilson has a play titled Seven Guitars.
He also has a play called The Piano Lesson.
He does.
He's describing all of the things you need to take with you to your cabin in the woods.
Including fences.
Including fences, exactly.
I need to bring a fence into the woods.
Or maybe you get to the woods and then you build the fence.
I need to bring Ma Rainey's Black Bottom into the woods.
I think I'm running out of August Wilson plays.
Me too.
But we will be reading Fences in my drama course, in which we were also reading Waiting for Godot. So we're kind of working our way through my syllabus.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's the exact title of this course?
Modern and Contemporary Drama.
Oh, okay. I remember, I think it was last spring, you were teaching Introduction to Theater or Drama?
Yep, Intro to Drama. Yeah, I've kind of drifted into being a drama teacher, among other things. Which, is okay. Like, I like teaching drama. It was not something that was originally kind of part of my brief when I came to the University of Hartford, but I started teaching the Development of Theater course, which is theater from ancient Greece up until about 1800. And then it just kind of infiltrated the drama curriculum from there.
So. Okay. Do you think you could, like, take over, now that Dr. Striff is on sabbatical, take over her job in teaching acting? Or
it's probably better for everybody that I don't.
That's it. Well,
I mean, in
established, you have good comedic energy, Dr. Walling. Yes.
And yet, good comedic energy is not actually the same as acting. I know enough about acting to say that. No, we do some acting in Intro to Drama, and like in the modern drama course, I have people do monologues because I think it's important to treat a play not just as something that you read, but also something that's meant to be performed. But yeah, I did a lot of theater when I was in like high school and some in college, and I learned I was not a terrible actress, but I was also not a good actress, which is fine. Not everybody needs to be a good actor. But.
Yeah, this past semester I took an acting class.
How was it?
Which it would have been taught by Dr. Striff, but then she was handed a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And so I got someone else. But, I mean, it was fine.
I think acting, it's great for people to take an acting class at some point, even if they're not particularly interested in becoming actors, because I think it covers stuff that you don't really get in a lot of other classes. It gives you different ways of thinking about texts and literature. It's good for public speaking, all that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people are just really, like I've found in English classes, a lot of people are really uncomfortable, even like reading out loud. Okay, you could say, okay, read this passage out loud, and they'll read it in a very kind of monotone, kind of like this. And I'm like, okay, but give us some energy, make us feel what's really happening in this passage.
Once more with feeling.
Once more with feeling, as it were. And if you need to put it into song to really convey that feeling. Then...
When words cannot do justice, you sing. When song cannot do justice, you dance.
When dance cannot do justice, you start a podcast.
Well, I think if it were me, it'd be like, if dance does not do justice, you start another play about the play you're in. Or I guess that's more of a Shakespeare thing.
Yeah, there's a little Hamlet in there also, so a lot of 20th century
Oh my
drama.
God, imagine if Shakespeare wrote musicals.
He kind of did. He didn't write the music, but there's a lot of songs in Shakespeare plays.
I mean, yeah, but not enough to like for them to and any of them to actually like be musicals, right?
A lot of them have been turned into musicals.
Yeah, like I think The Taming of the Shrew was adapted by Cole Porter into Kiss Me Kate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, and like there's so many Cole Porter songs I love, and I find out they're all from like one musical, like Kiss Me Kate. But I think my acting class. So I had a different instructor aside from Dr. Striff, and because it's a class that is intended for non-acting majors, you get lots of different people, most of whom I thought of as like not conducive to a productive class. So, and I mean, I took the class because, as a filmmaker, I'm interested in all aspects of the art form, including acting.
Absolutely.
at least not to be an actor, but like to understand an actor's perspective.
And if you're ever directing or something, to understand more about how to give an actor good instructions.
Yeah, and also, I guess if I ever have to act in a pinch, because I did a short film not that long ago where I was the only actor, and I was also the only person working on it, and so I'm not great. I did win an award, but not for the acting, and I just like, as someone who wants to be so jack all of the trades, be able to do things himself all by himself, like that includes being in front of the camera, and I'm not a big fan of myself acting. So there's the part of me that's curious, because like, what if I did become like an amazing actor? And then there's the other side of me like, yeah, that's never going to happen because you suck at it and you don't even necessarily like it. So
other than that, you're all set. Also, I think being especially a successful actor in the sense of having a career doing it is about so many personality traits that have nothing to do with your actual acting ability. Because on the one hand, I think actors tend to be really emotionally open, vulnerable, and that kind of makes it possible for them to put themselves into their performances. On the other hand, to survive as an actor, you have to really have an appetite for getting kicked in the teeth over and over again. And those things often don't go together.
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself very emotionally open, or at least not. I'm introverted in the sense that I spend a lot of time on my own, not liking people. But then there's the other side of me that likes talking to people, and therefore likes to record himself talking to people, because like talking with your friends or professors who you hope are now friends is fun, because you're just hopefully friends bullshitting back and forth, and yeah, but but then immediately afterward I like condense back into the introverted shell of a man that I am, and like, yeah, that was fun, but now I'm Mitch McConnell.
Don't become Mitch McConnell. There's a lot of people you can become, but let's not become Mitch McConnell if we can help it. I think very few people are completely introverted or extroverted. Everybody's kind of on a continuum, and I actually think I'm pretty introverted, and I can definitely, I would be a terrible teacher if I were introverted all the time. Just be like, okay, why don't you guys talk amongst yourselves, and I'm going to sit here. But I think, I go in and I can kind of be high energy in the classroom, but then I definitely need to recharge after that. So one thing I'm kind of interested in with people during the pandemic is, has your sense of how introverted or extroverted you are changed with all of the enforced isolation of the pandemic?
Yes and no. I mean, like, there's the part of me that's like, oh no, we have to stay inside and not talk to anybody. That's my usual schedule. But then there is I still want. Well, the thing that really put a damper on me was I couldn't meet with people to do the podcast, and so that's like one of, if not the only, big leap for an introvert to do in my case, which is part of why I started the podcast was to get out of the house, and now I can't.
But virtually, you're at least getting out of the house.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think it also makes a difference in terms of people I've talked to, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, quarantining in a living situation with other people or on your own. Because I definitely have friends who just live alone and don't have family in the area where they're living, that kind of thing, for whom it's been really tough because they really are just totally isolated. And so I think they feel themselves, or even if they were introverted before, pining a lot for more social contact. For me, I feel like the kind of activation energy for social interaction is, if anything, higher than it normally would be. I feel like I just get very monastic. I'm like, I know I'm just going to sit on my couch with this book. And I guess once in a while I should call my mom, but mostly that's it.
Yeah. God, I wish I could sit down with a book.
You have so many of them behind you. Just turn around.
Just turn.
Mine is Thomas Pynchon.
just turn your head 90 degrees to the right, Benson. There's a bunch of books. I don't know. I thought I would given the logistics of the pandemic and like having what is essentially an extended winter break, I would be more productive. Like read more books, watch David Mamet teach dramatic writing, make a record, and I mean, there are other factors that contributed to this, but like I haven't been able to do it, to do anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have felt like, well, we're going to have all this free time, we can be productive. And my sense is that very few people have actually managed to be productive while dealing with the logistical issues around isolation and quarantine and the emotional baggage of just living through the times we're living through. So like there was a point when I was like, yeah, I'll get so much research done. And then I was like, oh, but I can't go to the library. So that's kind of an impediment to that great plan.
When the libraries are closed, nothing is safe.
Yes. Although, as with everything else, at least we're in an era where a lot of stuff is available online.
Yeah. And do you think there's this thing called the Waffle House Index where you can judge how bad like natural disasters or whatever are by if the nearby Waffle House is closed?
I see.
Is there the library index? That disaster? The Library Disaster Index.
There probably is, yeah. Actually, it's interesting. What it reminds me of is sometimes I've read like books and articles that were written either in the 19-teens or the 1940s, and you'll have something like a footnote where somebody will say, according to my notes, I found this information in a manuscript in Berlin in 1932, but because of the war, I can't go back and check. So you'll basically just have to take my word for it, things like that. Or, I wasn't able to access my library because of the war. Like, so it's really interesting how people write books and do scholarship and research and all this stuff in wartime, and you see these little traces of it that get left in.
It sounds like a David Foster Wallace novel where, like if you read Infinite Jest or whatever, there's like the last eighth of the book, which is already a very long book, is like footnotes.
Mm-hmm.
And like in that case, it's fiction. So you, I guess, you agree with the premise.
Mm-hmm.
But
you suspend disbelief.
But like with somewhat historically dubious footnotes, which that's the next album, historically dubious footnotes, where you're not like based on circumstances. That's like the best thing. That's the best source of information, and you can't further verify it. That's interesting to think about. That history is written by the victors, but is also written by whoever happens to be alive after the fact, who may not even be victors.
The survivors. Right? Yeah. There's, speaking of dubious footnotes, there's an image that goes around on the internet every few years of a footnote that somebody found in a book. And I don't know what the book is. It's just something that went viral. But it's a footnote that says, this information was revealed to me in a dream. So footnotes can do all kinds of work.
Oh, yeah. That makes me think about like books like Infinite Jest or this other thing called like House of Leaves. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Like where it's people really trying to push the bound, like what a novel could be.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the case of House of Leaves, I haven't read it, but I've heard people rave about it and like how strange it is and how like the actual physical form of the book plays into how you read it or something like that,
If you ever want a book with a whole kind of metafictional footnote layer, I would recommend Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov, where you have a 990...
For a second, I was confusing it with The Pale King by David Foster Wallace. Yeah.
Also Pale, I'm sure David... I don't know if there's a connection. I'm sure David Foster Wallace knew his Nabokov extremely well. But yeah, it's a 999 line.
This is Vladimir Nabokov, who also wrote Lolita. right?
Yeah, Vladimir Nabokov, or as they say in Russian, Vladimir Nabokov.
Okay.
So it's a 999-line poem by a fictional poet with footnotes by a character who is the fictional poet's neighbor, who believes that he is the exiled king of a fictional country, and the poet was assassinated by somebody who was trying to assassinate him. And so he uses the footnotes to explain all of the ways in which this poem, which is about the poet's dead daughter, is actually about him, the neighbor, as the exiled king of a fictional country.
Oh.
Definitely recommend it.
Cool.
Taking a long moment just to take that all in.
Had to soak that in.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's a lot.
It's like when like you have a comedy bit where the specificity is the joke, and like it's the longest list of very specific adjectives and nouns that seems ridiculous.
Comedy is in the details.
So's the devil.
Sometimes the devil is very funny.
Because it's the divine comedy.
Exactly.
In the Inferno. I should read that. I've always thought I found, like anybody who likes to appear well read, I've fantasized about reading the Divine Comedy. And like there's also like, I think there's a Bob Dylan song that once referenced, not by name, but I assume that the reference was referencing Dante. I'm like, oh, I should. And I picked up like a copy of La Vita Nuova. I'm like, yeah, and then never read it. And
so now you can put the Divine Comedy on your hypothetically to be read someday list.
Is Divine Comedy on your hypothetically to be read someday list?
I've actually read the Divine Comedy.
All right, how?
Non-hypothetical, I've actually read list. It's not on my have taught list, although the Vita Nuova is. So, like,
right. How was it?
Which one?
Yes,
the Divine Comedy or Vita Nuova? Divine Comedy is
unclear antecedents.
Yeah.
How's the Divine Comedy?
The Divine Comedy is not very funny, but very, very good. It doesn't have great comedic energy.
Are you telling me Dante wasn't the funniest dude back in Renaissance? Well, wait. Would you say the time he was in was good? You consider part of the Renaissance, or?
So that's a complicated question. So the Italians consider him, like Dante and Boccaccio and Petrarch, Renaissance, but in England there are poets who are translating those guys, and the poets translating them are medieval. So the periods don't really line up very neatly. Oh,
okay.
So you can call them either Renaissance or medieval. It just depends on who you want to start a fight with.
Mid Renaissance, Reneval Sons.
Exactly. Yes.
Because 13th century.
I mean, all period divisions are arbitrary and
retroactively named.
Yeah, I mean, they tell you more about the person who wants to put the label on them than they necessarily do about the period itself.
Do you happen to remember who translated like the edition of the Divine Comedy you read?
I do not.
Okay, because I've heard about like people like trying to read stuff like this, and they're like, no, you got to get this translation.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, I don't know, like people might say, if you want to read Beowulf, you gotta go with Seamus.
Seamus Heaney.
Okay, I was going to call him Seamus McGarvey, which I think is the name of a cinematographer. Yeah,
may well be. Yeah, I don't think he translated Beowulf though. Pretty sure the guy who translated Beowulf was Seamus Heaney. Although there's a new translation of Beowulf out this year, which is much more kind of hip hop influenced. Like the first word of Beowulf in Old English is "what," which is translated in a bunch of different ways. So it's kind of like the first thing people look at in evaluating a Beowulf translation, like what kind of tone they're trying to set. Okay. So in olden days, it used to be things like "lo" or "hearken" or something like that. And so Seamus Heaney was very famous because he translated the first word as "so," which a lot of people thought was too informal, but he's just like "so." going to tell a story now.
So,
and the translation by Maria Devana Headley, I think is her name, starts with bro. And then I think it kind of continues from there. So. It will be a very different experience than Seamus Amy.
This is specifically a version of Beowulf in like Ebonics, or
no, it's kind of it's trying to be like a modern and more colloquial translation, and like a lot of the stuff she does with verse and meter and stuff like that is kind of influenced by hip hop. Okay. So yeah, I've read parts of it. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but there've been a lot of really interesting discussions about it. I think something like that, it's not trying to be the only translation of Beowulf, but it's especially because it's more sort of progressive and more feminist, and it's kind of saying, okay, we've always translated this word that way, but again, maybe kind of like period divisions. That tells us some more about the people who are doing the translating than about the word itself. So maybe we should consider that it can also mean these other things. So yeah, I think it like as a kind of addition to the conversation, it's a really interesting direction to take.
It reminds me of there was once a translation of the Bible, but like through internet cats, and like God would be referred to as ceiling cat, and like the whole "I can has cheeseburger."
All right. Wonder how the moral teachings would come through there.
Which I have not read this translation of the cat.
I suspect it would get old pretty quickly. Probably a small dose is very entertaining.
It's probably even shorter than the Jefferson Bible.
Yeah, takes out all the Jesus.
The catslation of the Bible.
The Cat James translation.
The Cat Power translation of the Bible.
That would be something different. A lot more guitar.
The Pussycat Dolls translation of the Bible.
And that would be something very different. I keep going all day.
So I feel weird now because now that I'm doing these things remotely, I don't know when to stop.
Well, I'm looking at my laptop and the battery is starting to run down a little bit, so that might be a cue from the universe.
Oh, because a lot of these have been spilling over like into an hour and a half or 2 hours, just because like we probably don't have anywhere to be necessarily, me and the guest, and then also it's like most of the time occupied was like me setting up, running from a class, setting up, breaking down, then running to another class, or just trying to do something else. And now that we're all just stuck in our homes, it's like, well, setup and breakdown is like non-existent. The time for that is non-existent. So we end up talking for, I just had one the other day that went for 4 hours. And although that was more because we made a joke, okay, you'll have to listen to that later, but when that comes out, it was with Samantha Nikitas, recent graduate. And we made a joke about we should do one that's double the length of one we did before, which, by the way, was not released. And
so no one other than you would actually know that it was double the length.
That's yes. Or
you could have made up whatever the length of the previous one was.
Yeah. You tell me your laptop's about to die. How are we gauging the amount of time you have until we can properly sign you off?
I think I can probably safely go for another 10 minutes or so, just judging by the rate at which it's been going down.
Okay. So, I think I had one more thing to say to you, but I can't remember what it was. I guess I'll just let you go. Thank you, Professor Walling.
Thank you for having me on.
This is Dr. Professor Walling. I already asked you how it feels to be a return guest, but how does it feel to be a return guest at the end of the podcast?
Well, I just feel like there was an alarming shortage of pickle-based content this time.
Well, this is your performance review, so we have to.
Which is, clearly an important topic in contemporary life.
So notes, needs more pickles. We'll try. Next time you're on, I guess.
Or maybe we'll get into other kinds of fermentation, making your own sourdough. A lot of people did that during the pandemic. So, yeah.
I guess next time around we'll try to talk more about pickles and then like overcorrect and we end up only talking about pickles. And
how much pickle content do we have?
Well, I mean, I had the idea of starting a pickles podcast, but
and what would the name be?
The Pickles Podcast. The Pickle Podcast.
Not like in a pickle?
It's an American pickle.
Pickle this.
Oh no, well, Mark and I once had the idea of a pickles podcast had come up when I talked to Mark Blackwell, and we decided it would make sense to be called the Pickle Podcast to be in line with the rest of my content.
That's true.
And also in the artwork, you could have a giant P that would serve as the first P in both pickle and podcast.
That makes sense.
And it could be made out of a pickle stalk, a pickle as the stalk of the P, and a pickle chip as the round bit. So
can't argue with alliteration.
Yep. All right.
All right. Well, thank you for hosting. Keeping the world apprised of the exciting adventures of the English department at the University of Hartford.
Yeah. The life and times of the English faculty. The lives and times of the English faculty at the University of Hartford. Thank you again for taking the time, or as much time as your laptop battery will allow. And this was fun.
Well, good luck with the upcoming semester, which I guess by the time this airs will not be upcoming. Yeah, yes, thumbs up. By the time this airs,
everyone else listening to the podcast, when they heard that, they were like, "This was not fun.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing I've ever heard."
They were pulling the noise insulating foam down off the walls and using it to cover their ears.
Somewhere there's like the old cane that comes out on stage to yank someone away, but it's trying to unplug my microphone. And okay, I keep making this is already kind of long. I keep making a long podcast longer. Thank you again. This is Professor Walling. I hope to maybe. I don't think I'll be taking any classes with you unless you end up teaching the capstone.
Next year?
Yeah.
Pretty sure I'm not, but I will be chairing the English department next year, so maybe I'll see you around. Yes, Dr. Cinch is going on sabbatical, so I will be.
I'm like, did Dr. Cinch die? Or does he plan on dying?
Come back, so yeah. I agreed for 1 year.
How do you plan on dying?
Well, you can. Not recommended.
So you'll be interim chair?
I'll be interim chair, yes.
Okay, cool. Does that come with a pay raise?
I don't think so. It comes with a course release. I'll be teaching 2 classes instead of 3 in the fall, so yeah.
So you'll be acting chair.
I'll be acting chair. And I will also be chair of acting, apparently. I'm
chair.
Well, if acting is taught by English faculty, then I will be chair of department chair of the people teaching acting.
Of the drama sub department that is within the department of the English department.
Yeah. I just like acting chair of acting. It was a pun. I could also make drama puns, right? Like we're a department that's just full of drama, but we're not really. We're actually a pretty low drama department.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Maybe next time I see you in person. Maybe the next time I see you, it will be in person.
Yes, and maybe the world will be a better place by then.
Don't get our hopes up. We're only 5 days into this new administration. It's not. I mean, we can be optimistic.
I didn't want to be a lot better. I mean, even 0.5% better would be better.
All right. Okay. How many goodbyes am I? This is the 4th. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Walling.
too, right? Like it's really hard to actually end a Zoom conversation.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And for the 5th time. And we'll see each other around sometime.
I mean, this is only the 2nd time you've been on, but.
But I've said goodbye so many times.
So long, farewell. Vider's saying goodbye.
There's an adieu in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
Adieu, adieu to you, and you.
All right. Thanks again, Dej. You probably have like a family to tend to, and stuff.
Arguably.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stay well, and hopefully we will see each other in the after times.
All right. Bye.
Bye.